I'm Amy Baxter, editor of Retail Leader, and welcome to Trend Talk. Every week on Trend Talk, we identify a retail trend and give it a deep dive with an industry insider. My guest this week is Harry Cunningham, Vice President of Retail Brand Experience at Vera Bradley, and we're talking about Vera Bradley's new store concept, goodMRKT. The store is a new store concept from Vera Bradley, featuring more than 30 brands within an artisan shop located in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The products and brands in the shop were all selected based on their fortitude for doing good. So welcome, Harry. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm really excited to learn more about the store concept and understand how goodMRKT highlights some of the ongoing transformations that we're seeing in the retail environment.
Thanks, Amy. Great to be with you. And I'm excited to talk a little bit more today about goodMRKT and tell you what we've been doing, what we've been up to.
Well, first of all, what is goodMRKT? Can you tell me what it is and what it looks like? What's the concept?
Totally, I will. And I'll actually give you a little bit of the background of how we ended up where it is too. But goodMRKT, in essence, is a really exciting new community of brands that we brought together. We're really using the Vera Bradley Foundation as the platform to celebrate the good that a number of brands are doing. Initially, this was going to be an experiment on how retail might be changing and how the experience could be changing. And over the course of us planning it, it morphed into this project. I like to say that actually the project found us. We were sort of down this mission of kind of where retail was going. We were in the middle of the pandemic. We didn't know how people were going to shop or were not going to shop. And so we created this community that's anchored by a cafe and a plant shop. So it's a kind of a unique space. But all the brands, as I mentioned, that we have in the space are all purpose driven. So that kind of goes across a lot of different areas, whether it's sustainability or in women's empowerment or giving back to specific organizations. But they all are kind of doing good in this really exciting place, and they've come together to build a community that's kind of surpassed anything that we ever thought about when we were just talking about this as an experiment.
Mm-hmm. So did the thought of it come before the pandemic, and then it just sort of evolved during the pandemic?
I think, we had been talking a lot about sort of what retail would look like in the future, even pre-pandemic, and how we should be evolving our stores and how technology was going to come into play. And so it was probably the middle of the summer of 2020. So we were well into the pandemic, but our stores had started reopening. And we were able to get into the office very limited. And we came together actually for a meeting as we were sort of continuing, like business couldn't just shut down because we were in the pandemic. We still needed to be planning for the future. And so we came together, a small group of us. And I remember we were each sitting in our own 6-foot table, 6-8 feet apart, sort of talking about where retail was going and what retail was going to end up being. And through the course of that, then going over to actually see one of our flagship stores, which is in Fort Wayne as well, we saw this big space and said, hey, we could maybe just move our store over there. So the original plan was actually to use this space as a lab, move the Vera Bradley store kind of literally across a little parking lot. It's an open air center that has kind of village style parking. And we were going to basically pop the store across the street, have some more space to try some more things. And our CEO was smart enough to say, why don't you not mess up the flagship store? Why don't you leave it alone and do something totally different? And that's how we ended up, kind of coming up with something totally different, which I'm not exactly sure how it went from Vera Bradley plus other brands to this whole different concept. But somebody somewhere along the lines had the smartness or the sensibility, I guess, to say let's really take a different approach. So that's sort of how we got it. So it was sort of a pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and now post-pandemic where we're going. It's been kind of ongoing, but the concept itself, goodMRKT itself, really came about, late fall, early winter last year, and then opened in April. So it was more the outcome of several months of planning something that was kind of directionally different.
Yeah, super cool. I'm really curious how it fits into Vera Bradley. You added all these different brands. So how does that fit into the Vera Bradley strategy? And do you still get to do some experimentation in that store? I think there's some different types of products that you have there that you wouldn't have in the flagship store, maybe.
Yeah, there are a lot of products in there that we wouldn't typically have in the flagship store. So I'll start with how does it fit into the Vera Bradley strategy. So VRA, or Vera Bradley Inc., has the two brands, Vera Bradley, and then we acquired Pura Vida bracelets in the summer of 2019. So we already had those two brands. And as we started working down this goodMRKT idea, We had really strong foundations inside of both Vera Bradley and Pure Vita of doing good, of giving back. So Vera
Mm-hmm.
Bradley has our Vera Bradley Breast Cancer Foundation. We've given over $25 million, or sorry, given over $35 million over the last 25 years. So that was really a natural part of who we were and what we were doing. And then Pure Vita works with over 80 charities worldwide to support them through their charity bracelet program. So there was this natural sort of sense of giving and doing good that was part of Vera Bradley Inc. So as we brought goodMRKT together, the idea of bringing brands together that were doing good felt very sort of natural and very seamless. There are a lot of things that we've learned, whether it be from a product point of view or even some potential collaborations to ways that we're presenting product in the store, ways that we're signing things that still sort of check the original box of using this as a lab store,
Mm-hmm.
albeit in a very different way. So Vera Bradley and Pura Vida both actually do have presence in goodMRKT. So they're there, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of great that they're getting to sit alongside these other brands. But yeah, it's been really a big learning process for us and for the entire company to kind of figure out how to work with multiple brands. How do we, flip our internal processes to be able to manage all of this under one roof that's very different from either Pure Vita or Vera Bradley, which were both more kind of traditional vertical brands.
Yeah. How is it working with other brands?
It's fun. I come from the department store world. So I was at Saks for 14 years, 10 years
Mm-hmm.
at Dillard's prior to that. So I actually come from multi-brand environments. So for me, it feels very normal to have lots of brands inside of one space and kind of figure out how they all work together. I would say for the company, we have learned a lot about it, and it's actually, interestingly enough, helped us become more nimble
Mm.
inside the company as well, because we're working with smaller startup brands, a lot of D2C brands that are really much scrappier than we are as a
Yeah.
big corporation. So I think we're learning from them. They're learning from us. There's some pretty exciting stuff that's happening. It's very much a two-way street, but very, very positive, I think, on our end.